Management thinking has evolved over thousands of years to become what it is today. Early breakthroughs in managerial thinking can be traced as far back as 2200 BC. Managers operate organizations and make decisions within a given set of cultural values and institutions. They are affected by their environment as well as affect the environment that they are working in. There are four cultural facets that heavily influence management thinking: economic, social, political, and technological. You can trace management decisions to one of these four facets of a society. Babylonian king Hammurabi issued a code of 282 laws, some of which governed business dealings. Law 104 was the first historical mention of accounting. It dealt with the handling of receipts and established an agency relationship and accountability between the merchant and the agent. His code also regulated wages and fees, such as fixing surgeons' fees and wages for labor. Under his code, there was no incentive for people to do more than required because of the regulated wages. One of the most ancient terms used to describe a professional managerial role is vizier. From this, we derive the word supervisor. We can trace this word back to ancient Egypt and the Hebrew Joseph. The office of vizier was an office of director, organizer, coordinator, and decision maker. Under the vizier, an elaborate bureaucracy was developed to measure the rise of the Nile River, on which every part of the economy depended. These were sophisticated methods of managing for the times, through forecasting, planning work, dividing the work among the various people and departments, and establishing a professional full-time administrator to coordinate and control the state enterprise. Sun Tzu was the founder of strategic management thinking. Though his philosophies take place in a military combat setting, they can very easily be applied to strategic business decisions. He provides insight into dealing with not only the enemy or competitive forces, but also the management of people. Sun Tzu said, "Regard your soldiers as your children, and they will follow you into the deepest valleys. Look upon them as your own beloved sons, and they will stand by you even unto death. If, however, you are indulgent, but unable to make your authority felt, kind-hearted, but unable to enforce your commands, and incapable, moreover, of quelling disorder, then your soldiers must be likened to spoiled children. They are useless for any practical purpose." He also said, "The skillful employer of men will employ the wise man, the brave man, the covetous man, and the stupid man." Additionally, Sun Tzu stated, "Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat." Socrates observed that managerial skills were transferable. He said, "The management of private concerns differs from that of public concerns only in the magnitude. Neither can be carried out without men, and those who understand how to employ others are successful directors of private and public concerns, and those who do not understand will err in the management of both." While Socrates contributed to management philosophy, he is most known for his views on ethics. Plato, a pupil of Socrates, remarked on human diversity and how this led to the division of labor. This notion that a division of labor would optimize productivity would persist for nearly 2,000 years, forming the basis for organizing work and determining how best to utilize the diverse abilities of people. Aristotle, a student of Plato, provided numerous insights into management and organization in politics. On the specialization of labor, he said, "Every work is better done which receives the soul, and not the divided attention of the worker." On departmentation, he states, "Every office should have a special function, and one question is, should offices be divided according to the subjects with which they deal, or according to the persons with which they deal?" On centralization, decentralization, and delegation of authority, he is quoted as saying, "We should also know over which matters several local tribunals are to have jurisdiction, and those in which authority should be centralized. For example, should one person keep order in the market and another in some other place, or should the same person be responsible everywhere?" On synergy, he says, "The whole is naturally superior to the part." On leadership, he said, "He who has never learned to obey cannot be a good commander." Chanakya Kutiya of Hindu India cautioned that it was difficult to find competent officials because humans are naturally fickle-minded and, like horses at work, exhibit constant change in their temper. Further, it is impossible for a government servant not to eat up at least a bit of the king's revenue. To keep order, he advised close controls, severe punishment, a network of spies within the government to watch over employees, and techniques to tempt employees to test their loyalty. Kutiya's assumptions about human nature are as modern as they are ancient, as are the prescriptions he provided on maintaining order. He also wrote on the desired traits of administrators and how to select personnel through interviews and references. He established departments with directors and prepared detailed job descriptions for various offices. At the First Council of Nicaea, the Bishop of Rome was named to the office of the Pope. The outcome was the first uniform Christian doctrine called the Creed of Nicaea, an authority in Rome and the papacy. This was an effort to dispel some of the organizational as well as theological problems that early Christianity faced. However, the conflict between centralized and decentralized authority has reappeared throughout history, not only in the Catholic Church, but also in other organizations. In modern organizational terms, the Catholic Church leaders perceive to need to institutionalize the organization, that is, to specify policies, procedures, doctrine, and authority. The problem is a recurring one even today. Many organizations face the problem of needing unanimity of purpose, yet discretion for local problems and conditions. Lucia Pacioli, a Franciscan monk, described a system that was the first information system for management. It provided the entrepreneur with information on cash and inventory position and enabled a check on cash flow. The system did not keep track of costs, however. It was not until the 20th century that any advancements were made on Pacioli's system. The Industrial Revolution brought forth many new ideas of managerial thinking. Jean-Baptiste Say, a French professor on industrial economy, stated that the entrepreneur became a manager for others and assumed an additional risk in combining the factors of land, labor, and capital. As organizations grew, sub-managers appeared. These were the first non-owning salaried managers. They made decisions within a broader framework established by the owners. Say brought Adam Smith's ideas to France. He also added them to the idea of management being a fourth factor in production. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence and Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations brought forth the death of mercantilism. Mercantilism was the economic doctrine that government control of foreign trade is of paramount importance for ensuring the military security of a country. There is a fundamental disagreement between classical and neoclassical economists about the central message of Smith's most influential work, an inquiry into the nature and causes of the wealth of nations. He believed that when an individual pursued his own self-interest, he directly promoted the good of society. Self-interested competition in the free market, he argued, would tend to benefit society as a whole by keeping prices low while still building in an incentive for a wide variety of goods and services. Between 1776 and 1787, Smith's ideas were widely read and discussed by U.S. business and political leaders. Andrew Urey provided academic training for fledgling managers in the early factory system. Urey influenced Charles Dubin and Henry Fayol, all of whose ideas contributed to modern management thinking and theory. Urey developed the three principles of actions for factories: mechanical, which is the techniques and procedures of production; moral, or the condition of personnel; commercial, sustaining the organization through sales and finance. He also defended working conditions and the use of child labor by saying they were better off than the agricultural workers. Urey couldn't understand why workers would engage in behavior such as strikes and sabotage, which reduced their chances of continued gainful employment. In 1833, he took a survey of cotton mills and compared it to the 1804 industry. His survey results included a lower average work week and a higher pay. Due to a concentration on the cotton industry, generalizations about management were precluded. The machine-breaking movement gained a label for machine smashers. The individuals behind the destruction of equipment were called Luddites. A label originated because a youth in Ludlam had smashed his knitting frame when his father had been too harsh to him. Because of these individuals, managers had to figure out a way to motivate and discipline workers. This led to the carrot and stick method of management. Positive inducements, being the carrot, and negative sanctions, being the stick, were used. In an effort to build new factory ethos, these became the methods of providing motivation and discipline. Francis Lowell was instrumental in bringing the Industrial Revolution to the United States. In 1813, he enlisted the support of his brothers-in-law, Charles, James, and Patrick Tracy Jackson, the financial backing of the merchant Nathan Appleton, and the power of the Charles River to establish the Boston Manufacturing Company at Waltham, Massachusetts. The BMC was the first integrated textile mill in America in which all operations for converting raw cotton into finished cloth could be performed in one mill building. To raise capital for their mills, Lowell and partners Aden and Mierkwak pioneered a basic tool of modern corporate finance by selling $1,000 shares of stock to a select group of wealthy investors. Lowell also pioneered the Lowell system, the employment of women ages 15 to 35 from New England farming families as textile workers. He paid these mill girls, also known as Lowell girls, lower wages than men, but offered attractive benefits including well-run company boarding houses with chaperones, cash wages, and benevolent religious and educational activities. Francis Lowell's Waltham system had become the dominant method of textile manufacturing. The Waltham system had joint stock companies and corporate form of ownership rather than sole proprietorships or partnerships, hired non-family members for supervision, and integrated spinning and weaving to manufacture goods in large quantities. Specializing in spade husbandry, which is a mode of cultivating the soil and improving it by means of deep digging with a spade instead of using the subsoil plow, Robert Owen created a plant at New Lanark that created jobs and in effect increased people's ability to consume the products of the industry. Owen tried to use moral suasion rather than corporal punishment on his workers. This led to his main contribution to management thinking, the silent monitor. The way it worked was the following. 4 marks awarded to superintendents, who then rated their reports. Marks were translated into the colors of black, blue, yellow, and white in ascending order of quality. A block of wood was put at each machine, each side being one of the report colors. At the end of the day, performance was noted and the block was turned the correct way. This way, everyone could see the person's last day's effort. This invention was definitely a precursor of modern management's public posting of sales and production data to instill departmental pride or encourage competition. Owen called for his fellow managers to understand the human element. He noted that factories took care of their machinery so as to get best use of it. He suggested that by taking care of human resources, facilities could also get better performance of it. After 1824 and a failed factory attempt, Owen planted the seeds for a concern about the people and industry. Charles Dupin published Discourse. This book was a call to end discord and strife in the workplace. Dupin called for industrial training for the agrarian and unskilled workers so they could enjoy the benefits of the modern age. Dupin's ideas influenced Henry Fayol and probably Jean-Baptiste Say. He believed that workers should be trained until they were perfect, instead of trying to perfect the equipment or machines. His management thinking should still be considered in the economy today. James Montgomery was a British editor, hymn writer, and poet. He was particularly associated with humanitarian causes, such as the campaigns to abolish slavery and to end the exploitation of child chimney sweeps. His managerial advice was largely technical in nature. He advised how to discern quality and quantity of work, how to adjust and repair machinery, keep costs down, and how to avoid unnecessary severity in disciplining subordinates. Daniel McCullen developed a highly detailed organization chart. He developed information management to the highest state of the art for the times. There were 6 principles in his management technique: a proper division of responsibilities, sufficient authority conferred to enable such responsibilities to be fully carried out, the means of knowing whether such responsibilities are faithfully executed, great promptness in the report of all derelictions of duty, so that the evils may be corrected quickly. Such information would be obtained through a system of daily reports and checks that will not embarrass principal officers nor lessen their influence with their subordinates. The adoption of the system as a whole, which will not only enable the general superintendent to detect errors immediately, but will also point out the delinquent. Andrew Carnegie was a Scottish-American industrialist who led the enormous expansion of the American steel industry in the late 19th century. 2 main principles inspired Carnegie's approach to the management of his steel empire. First was to watch costs before everything else. The second was to set prices wherever necessary to keep his mills running at full capacity by vertical integration. He was one of the first businessmen to use vertical integration as a business strategy. Frederick Taylor was an American mechanical engineer who sought to improve industrial efficiency. He is regarded as the father of scientific management and was one of the first management consultants. Taylor was one of the intellectual leaders of the efficiency movement, and his ideas, broadly conceived, were highly influential in the progressive era. He proposed a piece rate system. This marks the true beginning of the systematic management movement. As stated in the beginning, 4 cultural facets heavily influence management thinking: economic, social, political, and technological. As you can see, throughout history, management thought has been influenced by or influenced some change in one of the 4 cultural facets, thusly influencing the evolution of management thinking.